What's up, everyone? I'm Jason Wojo. Welcome to Life in Your Show. On the Life in Your Show, we help people make more, work less, create lives and businesses they love, and quite frankly, just have awesome lives. We just want people to have fulfilling, prosperous, abundant lives, and create that in a way that, business serves that. So many people set up their business in a way that life kind of gets the scraps and leftovers. Well, we flip that model on its head. Life comes first, business comes second. I am joined by my Polish co-host, Peter Kola. What's up, bro?
It's Polish Peter.
Well, I know, but I said my Polish co-host. I thought it'd be redundant if I said Polish Peter. I was trying to avoid redundancy.
Okay, you didn't want to go double it up on Polish. All right,
the double P it, right?
There's enough P's up there.
That's it.
So listen, guys, I'm excited about this particular episode because we have an awesome guest. I know this guy for a while. I think Wojo actually has known him for a lot longer than I have. But what Wojo just talked about having a business serve you. Most of this podcast, we are actually talking about how to create a business to serve you, right? And not you serving the business. And he, I think, had to have this transition for himself in his life and his business to be able to do this. And I'm really excited for you guys to hear this because it doesn't matter if you're an investor, if you're an internet marketer, if you're just starting out in business, the steps that he kind of outlines and what he talks about, those little nuggets that he shares in that episode, I think are very important for you to take on literally right now in your life, whatever you are in the business. If you're not doing these things, incorporate them, start doing them in your business.
Yeah, he dropped some serious nuggets in here. You'll love him. Check it out now. Let's go to the interview with Joe McCall. Here we go. Joe McCall, what's up, buddy? It's been a long time. Welcome to Life in Your Show.
Jason, Peter, hey guys.
Dude, it's been a lot. It's been many years since I've had the chance to catch up with you. I have been following you. I see you on Facebook, and dude, you are setting the world on fire. Like when I first
Not
met
literally.
you, yeah. No, we don't want to do that. That would be bad. But it just seems like I can't get away from you, man. You're like,
shucks. No, I appreciate that. It's good to see you guys. I've been busy, man. The reason why you're seeing me everywhere is probably because we're friends on Facebook, but I've been doing a lot of Facebook ads. And, I've kind of in the last 3 months, I've really slowed them down a little bit and I'm going to be getting ready to ramp them back up again. But Facebook ads, YouTube ads, I've really been focusing on those two avenues for generating new leads lately. So yeah, that's probably why you're seeing me. It's not because I'm famous or anything. It's
Gotcha, man. Well, well, it's a good thing. It's not, yeah. I mean, and it reminds me, every time I see him, I'm like, man, I got to catch up with Joe. I got to get him on the podcast. I got to find out what he's doing. So if the people who don't know who you are, what you do, tell us a little bit about your business.
Well, I've been friends with Steve Cook and Sean McCloskey, the two original guys who started Life in Air. For a long time. I mean, I've known Sean McCloskey 2006, and he introduced me to Life in Air a couple of years later. And so at that time, I was working as a civil engineer, working on power plants, building power plants, living in St. Louis. I have a wife and four awesome kids, an awesome wife and four awesome kids. And I,
good correction.
Good catch.
Yeah, boy, it doesn't sound good if I say my kids are awesome, but my wife not. What? No, she's more awesomer. But so I've been, so I was engineering stuff, but getting interested in real estate. Sean McCloskey was one of my first coaches, and he helped me a lot in the business. And so he introduced me to Life in Air. And right about 2009, I quit my job and I joined the Life in Air Mastermind. And we were just talking a minute ago, and we'll talk about that probably later, our first meeting in Chicago, which was life-changing for me. And so I quit my job in 2009, and Steve and Sean and a lot of the other guys were really instrumental in helping me. And I remember at that time, I wanted to do real estate full-time, and I was flipping lease options. And a lot of people were starting to ask me, like, how do you do that? What do you do? And I was getting invitations to speak at local real estate clubs. And I had at the back of my mind, it'd be cool to be able to help other people do this stuff also. Like, I'm doing it myself, but man, because I've always wanted to be a teacher. And I've always thought, man, it'd be cool if I could teach other people how to have the same success I'm having in real estate. I can help other people quit their jobs and spend more time at home with their family and stop traveling, because I was traveling a lot for my job and I hated it. I hated working in a cubicle. I call it my cubic hell. And, I just thought I want to help other people find the same kind of freedom. And so, even back then in 2009 at the first Life in Our meeting I was at, I shared this idea like, hey, I want to create a course and teach people how to do what I'm doing. And we'll talk about that more later. But so that kind of started my journey of doing deals. And then about 2010, 2011, I created my own course, and I started a podcast, and I started coaching and consulting, and then selling, eventually publishing books and doing videos and creating software and helping. I really have a big passion for the marketing of the business, in the marketing terms of helping people get more deals, leads from sellers and buyers, but also on the internet marketing side of things, on creating and publishing education and consulting and services. So I'm kind of doing both, probably right now, my business looks like 75, 85, well, I'd say 85, 90% of my time is spent on the publishing side of the business, teaching, coaching, consulting, doing software, selling done for you services. And the other 5 to 10% of my time is spent actually doing deals. So now in my deals, I just I partner with local wholesalers, local investors. And even my 2 teenage sons are kind of helping me on the deal side of the business. But my passion is really in the changing lives business, through education and stuff.
Man, that's awesome. And one of the things I remember, this is years ago now, in regards to how you set your business up, you had gone, and maybe this is an annual thing for you at that point. I think you had done it a couple of times. You had headed over to Prague, I believe, and spent a couple of months over there and still ran your business. And people at that point were like, how is he doing this? Is that still a thing for you?
Oh man, that was so cool, because it was the whole Life in Air concept of design a vision for your life first and then build a business around that. And I really took that seriously. And I thought, okay, so my wife and I, we had 4 kids at the time. Let's see, my youngest was born in 2011. So we had 3, but we knew, okay, we wanted to travel the world. When my wife and I first got married, we spent 5 months I was married when I was going to Iowa State University. And there was a student exchange program where we went to the Czech Republic for 5 months, taking classes in English there in Prague. And we just loved it. And so then when we moved back to the States, and then I got my first serious full-time job in 2000 with an engineering company. We always had in the back of our minds, wouldn't it be cool to travel the world and, help serve in ministries and stuff like that while living but working and living in other countries. And so after I quit my job, I'm thinking, man, if I could do real estate virtually from my house in different cities, why can't I do deals from Europe? And so we started talking about, we wanted to homeschool our kids, and we wanted to be able to the freedom of traveling. So we didn't homeschool our kids necessarily because we were anti-public school. We were just so pro homeschool. And we thought, well, let's take our kids to Europe instead of teaching them about, ancient Roman history. Let's take them to Rome, and let's show them the world. And so, I think in 2010, we went to Prague for 2.5 months and lived there and traveled a little bit while we were traveling. But that time we had 4 kids and had a blast. And I was able to do deals while living there in Prague and with our 4 kids. And then we came back to the States. And then a couple years later, we went on an RV trip for 3 months, traveling in an RV around the northwestern corner of the United States, doing deals. And then we went back to Europe for 3 months. And the whole time we're homeschooling our kids. And I was working actually while traveling. But so I just love the freedom and flexibility of being able to do that. And so that all started with like, what do we want our life to look like? I don't want a business that was going to tie me down to a location, to an office and huge overhead and huge staff. I wanted a simple business that I could run from my laptop from anywhere in the world. And I wanted to be able to spend more time at home, be able to, have breakfast with my kids and lunch and dinner with my family if I wanted to, right? And be able to go travel the world. How could I design a business that supports that? How can I design a business so, I don't have to be at work. I don't have the pressure of of a huge overhead and lots of staff and all of that. So I wanted a simple business that was highly profitable with really low overhead. And I remember very clearly thinking about that stuff and writing it down at the very beginning. And so that was what allowed us to start traveling. And now as our kids are older, we have more commitments. It's harder to travel, right? Because they've just got so many sports and activities, and it's harder to travel. But man, God's been really good to us. That's for sure, right?
Sounds to me like you need to update your visions and move the kids out of the vision or something so you can travel again.
No, we are. I turned 50 in 3 years.
What?
So I'm more than 27 years old. And, but one of my new vision is to go to, back to Prague for a month. And, for my 50th birthday with all my 4 kids. By that time, my oldest will be 20, but, bring him and all 4 kids. And then just for 2 months, not work, but go and travel around all the places we haven't seen yet in Europe. And that's going to be really, really fun. And it doesn't have to be for 3 months at a time too. I mean, there's a point where anything longer than 2 or 3 months, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get back home now. Right. But we've got all these things lined up and planned out what we want to do in a couple of years. So yeah, let's go back.
Man, that's awesome. Tell me, you mentioned low overhead, not a lot of staff responsibilities, as being important in how you originally had set up your business to give you that freedom. Are there any other things that you look back that were pivotal in how you structured your business that allowed you that freedom that other people could take away from and maybe look at for their own businesses?
Yeah. There was a time, one of the Life and Air coaches, he was having a coaching session in an office that I shared with him. I don't think he's with Life and Air anymore, but he was coaching somebody else. It was the strangest thing. And I was in my office down the hall, kind of plugging away. And I only came into this office maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, but I had the office for 2 of my assistants at the time. And I was listening to him coach this other guy, and he was coaching him on the Life and Air vision process. Right. And you guys know this guy. I'll mention his name later. He's a real nice guy. I mean, he didn't leave on bad terms or anything like that. But anyway, he said something to this guy. He said to him, all right, let's write down everything you do in your business and ask yourself a real simple question. How can I do none of this? And when I heard him say that, my mind just exploded. Oh my gosh, what a simple concept. I'm always about asking bigger and better questions, thinking outside the box, right? Like when I wanted to travel, I thought, how, if I can do this virtually, from home, why can't I do it from Prague, right? When I started wholesaling lease options, I thought, well, why can't I wholesale lease option deals, right? So I like asking better questions. I'm always trying to find those questions to ask. But when this guy said, hey, how can you do none of this, right? Everything you do in your business, and ask yourself that real simple question. How can I do none of this? And so I started looking at that. I started thinking, well, all right, if I want to have a publishing business that only, I'll just be honest with our numbers. We did 4.2 million last year, and we only have 3 full-time employees, which I don't know if that's good or not, but I'm pretty sure it is, right? I think that's pretty good.
I think so. I think it qualifies.
Yeah. But that's not qualifies.
It would be better if it was 4.3, but I mean,
yeah, we won't get to, yeah.
So anyway, I don't mean to boast or brag about it, but I just thought, okay, how can I have a big business? So I don't want to have an office, and this was pre-COVID, right? I've never wanted to have an office and be tied down to that. I just want to be lean and mean and be able to grow. And so I always try to ask myself, who can I get to do that for me? How can I outsource this? Is that even necessary? Is that going to add too much overhead? I don't, because, Jason, we talked about it a minute ago at that Chicago meeting, at that first Life and Air meeting, right? I thought, and at the time I was in a world of hurt, man. I was way over leveraged. I had a ton of bad deals that I was trying to get out of. And I thought I was in a bad spot. But after listening to so many other people share their stories and being open and honest, man, it was so liberating to just feel like, okay, I guess I don't have it that bad, right? And this sounds horrible, but I was like, at least I'm not as bad as that guy. But at the same time, it was like, oh man, I felt for them, right? But it gave me hope, because I realized I'm not alone, right? Like there's other people that are struggling with these same things. But when I heard all those stories of people with, huge amounts of debt and huge amounts of overhead and the pressure and the stress and the obligations of like running a business where, the first $50,000 that you make every month goes to salaries and goes to overhead and is completely gone. And, how depressing and discouraging that is. And hearing Steve and Sean tell all of these stories, I don't want a business like that, right? I don't want to have that kind of a pressure. So while my business has grown, we'll still spend a lot of money on Facebook ads and stuff. Like there was a period of time for a few months last year, we were spending about 120 grand a month on Facebook and YouTube ads. But I could still turn that off. That wasn't anything that I had to be doing, right? That was just money that you need to spend to kind of grow your list and to grow your audience. But so it's always a question I'm asking myself, right? Like, how can I have a prosperous, profitable business without huge overhead? And I'll even take it a little step further. Last year, I looked at my businesses. I was doing like 3 different things. I've always kind of had a one P&L for my whole business, but I did a P&L for each of these different aspects of the business. And this one aspect that I thought was the most profitable turned out to be the least. It was where I was spending 80% of my time, where 80% of my headaches were coming from, but it was only accounting for 20% of my profits. And so I decided I need to get rid of that. And I'm going to focus on this thing that I enjoy more, but I was only spending 20% of my time, but 80% of my profits are coming from that. So it's just constantly reevaluating and looking at what are my numbers, not as a big company overall, although that's important, but each individual aspect of your business, you need to know your numbers for each one of it. What's your net profit on each of those things? What's your net return on your time, right? What gives you the most satisfaction and enjoyment? And what are the things in your business that are sucking the life out of you? Get rid of that as soon as possible. Well, so anyway, does that answer the question? I hope.
Yeah. Dude, that's huge.
Well, listen, sounds to me like you spent a lot of time working on your business as opposed to in your business.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to do that all constantly, right? Yeah. That's a thing that every business owner strives to do. Working on your business, not in it. And another real good book that was pivotal in all this was Profit First by Mike
Michalowicz. Yeah.
What's his name?
Michalovich.
Yeah, Mike Michalowicz. Yeah.
Michalowicz. Say that again, Peter.
That's Michalovich.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Well, so dude, tell me, you alluded to something in passing that I think is really important for us to dive into for just a moment, if you can. And I don't know if this is something conscious that you developed, if it's your nature as being an engineer in mind and having this kind of mindset, but you mentioned asking better questions and really using what I'm guessing to be the answers to those questions to drive decision-making. So for instance, you just said, and basically you just had a question that you were looking at different aspects of your different businesses and saying, hey, so that was a question in itself that allowed you to discover which was least profitable for you. But it sounds like you also just do this in general. Like maybe whether it's a marketing campaign, whether it's a component of your business, whether it's like, a direction for an investment or something. Is that something you consciously developed, or is that just natural to you? And is that something that someone can learn to do?
Wow, that's a good question. I think what helps is always trying to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. I'm always kind of studying people that are more successful, that are doing what I want to do in business and in spiritual life, but like part of always trying to improve is forcing, when you have a mindset of I always want to try to improve and do better, and you see what other people are doing, not out of envy, but out of like being challenged, like, okay, how can I have a business like that? So you're kind of forced to ask yourself these questions. When you surround yourself, like in masterminds or coaching programs of people in there that are smarter than you, it kind of happens naturally when you start thinking about these things and you start getting advice from other people, which is one of the things I loved about the Life in Air retreats, is because you would be there and you would share kind of what you needed help with, and people would give you advice. So when you're in those kinds of situations, it kind of happens naturally, and you're forced to ask better questions because you're being challenged by your peers and by other people that you look up to, right? And there's people in the internet marketing business that I spent a lot of money for privilege, for access to these guys that, they make a lot of money. They have a real good business, kind of similar to what I want to have. And so sometimes you got to pay to play. And sometimes this sounds maybe vain, but you need to figure out, how do I get into the big boys club? So I can hang out with these guys. And then, so that's what I've tried to do. And that forces me to always, I think, just strive to be better, and, forces me to ask the questions then, how can I 80-20 my business, right? How can I find the 20% that gives me 80% of my results, and then eliminate everything else and just focus 100% on the 20%? That's a challenge I'm always trying to strive for.
Got it. And I guess as you start approaching that 20%, you start getting there, and now you're asking further probing questions and more focused questions to even whittle that down to the best for your skills.
I'll say this too: complexity is the enemy of success. There's a guy named Todd Brown who talks about that. Complexity is the number one enemy to success, and that's so true, because and every time I've gotten in trouble where my focus has been diluted or my profits have gone down, it's because everything's too complicated. I'm promoting doing too many things. And, this is a problem I've always struggled with, the gold shiny object syndrome, right? You're always chasing those things, but shiny objects can make you go blind, but focus will make you rich, and not just in a material standpoint, but rich in a lot of things. Right. So, I've really tried hard to be laser focused and remove complexity. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to focus just on one thing, but that's where most of I have found in my own business, that's where most of the profit and success in business and life comes from, is extreme focus.
Why do you think so many people, especially entrepreneurs, struggle with that? Is it just our nature? Like we get bored with one thing, or is it fear of picking the wrong thing? Like, why do you think that's such a distraction for entrepreneurs?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think one of the big things, it's boredom. You get bored of one thing that, and entrepreneurs are so, maybe it's in our DNA or whatever, but it's so easy to do where, the funny thing, they say that the definition of an entrepreneur is somebody who finds something that works and then stops doing it and does something else. Right. Yeah. Like that's an exercise in frustration and madness and futility. Like, knock that off. But it's so tempting to do, because at the same time, it's a double-edged sword. You're hanging out with these successful people, and you're seeing what they're doing. You're like, oh, I want to do that. I can do that. Oh, that's easy. All I need to do is hire a couple of assistants and they can run that business for me, or I can just buy that business or start a new business and do that. But, I hear these people online brag about how many businesses they own. I'm shaking my head, and it's all smoke and mirrors. They cannot be. Maybe Richard Branson, right? But like, everybody wants to be like Richard Branson. That's extremely hard to do. And when I hear somebody bragging about how many businesses they have and how much of this that they do and how much of that they do, there's something that they're not telling, right? There's something going on. They probably, if it is successful, they have somebody else running that ship, and it's not them, right? And I think Richard Branson would say the same thing. His other businesses are so successful, and some of them aren't. I mean, he's shutting some of them down, right? But he doesn't do the day-to-day, and then he hires other people to do that. Well, anyway, I don't know if I'm running around in circles, but the complexity is the enemy of success, and we got to be simplifying things if we want to be successful, and stop trying to be a jack of all trades. Because when you're trying to be a jack of all trades, you're really a master of none. And I learned that, early on in my investing career. I was trying to do all these different strategies. I was trying to do short sales and foreclosures and rehabs and fix and flips and buy and hold and short sales and wholesaling. I was trying to do all these strategies, but I didn't start having real success until I just picked one strategy and went deep with it. And so that's, I'm going through that process right now. I'm continually trying to simplify my business so that all my energy and all my team is focused on one thing instead of 20 things.
Man, you're dropping some real gems here, and I hope our listeners are picking up on it. Hey, we'll be right back with our interview with Joe McCall. But before we do that, I want to tell you about something very, very special that's coming up. This is actually Peter's idea. I'm going to give you credit for it, man. We have a Get a Life Getaway coming up. This is our flagship event. We've been doing these for over 10 years now. I've had over 10,000 people have their lives changed as a result. And what we're doing to kick off the brand new year, it's been over a year since we've done this event because of everything getting shut down because of COVID. We haven't been in person. We're missing it. We can't wait. We're ripped roaring, ready to go. And so what we're doing is allowing you to attend for how much, Peter?
$1.
$1. You put down $1. You sign up for $1. You come to the event, and it's everything and more than you expected, or you don't pay anything else. And if it is everything you've expected, you loved it, you thought it was incredible, it was worth multiples more than you paid to be there, you pay the full ticket price, which, by the way, we're still offering a promotion, and we're giving you not one but 2 tickets for a total of $497. And so go on over to lifenear.com/experiences to learn more, to enroll for $1. And if it's not everything we promise, that's all you pay. And when it is everything that you've dreamed and more, then you will settle up after the event for the remaining balance.
By the way, for the Raleigh event, and this is the offer that's available for the Raleigh event.
Raleigh event only.
Yes, there is only 35 seats in that because of the COVID restrictions. So if this hasn't filled out yet, as we are recording this episode, join in there because the page is going to be down if it fills up. But go over there and sign up for $1. Claim your seat with that $1 to be able to be at the Raleigh event.
Dude, that's a good point. I hope there's seats left. Listen, go over there right now, get your seat. We'll see you in Raleigh. So one of the things, and you're kind of answering it, but I want to know if there's anything else that you think may contribute. But I'm hearing, and I've wondered, I mean, not to, like you said, not to brag, whatever, but you've been extremely successful. And so I've wondered frequently, like, what sets Joe apart from the average person who struggles, as an internet marketer, as an investor, whatever it is. And I'm hearing things like focus. I'm hearing things like simplicity. I'm hearing things like low overhead, ask good questions, right? What else would you attribute to your success?
Well, God, number one, for sure, without a doubt. And it's not just, I say that as a platitude, but I owe all of my success to God. I really believe that. My wife is amazing. She challenges me every day. I don't know. I would be a complete wreck if it wasn't for her. And we have challenges, we had gotten a big old fight yesterday, but like, she's amazing. I was just thinking about this the other day. Like, if it wasn't for my wife, like, dang, I would be so jacked up. Like, just, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Yep.
So I'm grateful for my family because they keep me in check. They keep me humble. They're not impressed.
Yeah, they don't care. Dad.
They're not impressed with how much money I make or I have these awards over here on the wall. And these books that I've written, they're not impressed by that. And I really pray that my life would leave a lasting impact for the glory of God. And so I pray a lot. Like, I ask God, please give me wisdom. And just help me just stay humble, and help me to learn as much as I can from, the Bible. I read the Bible every day. I try to. And, so I'm constantly praying and asking God to give me, wisdom. Right. Again, I'm a big believer in, left to our own devices, left to our own, heart, we're going to be into a world of trouble. So I ask for God's help, man, every day. And I'm asking him for wisdom and show me what to do. And should I do this or should I do that? Before I send that email, before I send that text, I'm not always, but I'm trying to pray, is this the right way that I should word this? Should I change this? Should I do that? Should I partner with this guy on this one thing? Should I do this deal? I really believe that when you ask God for wisdom, he'll give it to you 100% of the time if you ask in faith. So I'm constantly trying to ask God for wisdom because I know he'll give it to me. And and then I ask for the help in obeying it and listening to it.
Right. Has that, now, I guess it's impossible to quantify, but like, how has that impacted your business on a practical level? You mentioned some things like, you may have, for instance, an opportunity that comes across your plate and maybe it looks promising to worldly eyes, but you give it some spiritual consideration and it seems like maybe it's not the right thing. I mean, how has this played out for you?
Well, I'm trying to think of some specific examples, but here's the thing. It's tempting for me to think that I can do all of these things, right? And I know I'm good at one or two things. And so I'm constantly having to tell myself, all right, are you doing those one or two things that you should be doing, or are you doing all these other things? And I know that I can get other people to do those other things for me that I'm not good at, whether they're employees or they're other outside agencies that I hire to do that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm trying hard to just stay in my zone, stay in my genius. Right. You've heard of the genius zone activities, right? Like everybody needs to ask themselves, what's my genius zone? And everything else, they need to eliminate it or delegate it out to somebody else.
Right. I'm curious, have you found it easier or harder? So you're incorporating, it sounds like, like God has a seat in the boardroom of your business, and has it been
He has
easier?
Every seat.
Yeah. Right.
He has every seat. He's not the co-pilot. He's the pilot.
Right. Gotcha.
Right? That's where I'm standing. That's where I'm putting my flag.
And so has it become easier or harder as you become more successful to kind of continue to go back to that and have that viewpoint? Because on one hand, you could say like, hey, I've had all the success and I've been faithful. And so this has been a testimony to the fact of what can happen when God is flying the plane. Or some people may feel more susceptible to getting puffed up on their own and feeling like, hey, I've been successful. I did this. And I've seen that happen as well. I'm just curious, has it been always the same for you? Have you experienced a shift in either direction?
Oh, no, I have made a lot of mistakes. And I'll be honest with one of them right now. And I was telling you about this, and I'll just go ahead and share it. I had a $550,000 in change federal IRS tax lien placed on me about 4 years ago. And it's through a variety of circumstances. And I'm about 1 month away from paying it off. So that's kind of why I'm sharing it. But man, you talk about being humble. Mm-hmm. When you go to the IRS's office, there's a guy who's here in St. Louis. He was my contact, I guess. He's like,
facilitator.
Joe, oh my gosh. I won't go down that road. But anyway, he said, Joe, do you realize how close we were to, taking everything you own, sending you to jail, and, like taking everything, literally, like your car, your computers, your home, kicking you out in the street. The IRS has ultimate, like they can do anything they want if you owe them taxes, right? They have unlimited authority. And it's scary, right? So I got into a situation where, and I hope this answers your question. I'm just trying to be vulnerable here to show you, like, I am not perfect, right? And I make a lot of mistakes, and I'm praying that God helps me to avoid these mistakes again and avoid future mistakes. But anyway, I got to a point where I had a ton of tax deductions from a bunch of write-offs from losses, between 2007 and 2012. And so I had a bunch of write-offs, and we've adopted all four of our kids. So we had a bunch of adoption credits. And so there was a period of time where I made a lot of money and I ran out of all my deductions. And all of a sudden I had this huge tax bill and $150,000, and I had zero money set aside for it. And then I was like, oh man. So I kind of hid my head in the sand for a while. And then I started paying my old taxes off, but I wasn't paying my new taxes. And so it just kept on growing and growing and growing. And I was completely embarrassed by it and humiliated. Didn't want anybody to know. Here I've got this podcast. I'm teaching people how to do real estate, and I'm making good money there. And I can't claim any hardship with the IRS because, I'm making good money, right? My bank account looks strong, but and I'm not driving a Lamborghini and living real fancy, expensive homes. I'm not that flashy sales guy, but I have a reputation, and I'm completely embarrassed, and I'm humiliated. I don't know what I'm going to do. So fast forward about 3 or 4 years ago, that got really serious. And after taxes and penalties and fees, oh my God, and interest, half of that 540,000 was taxes. I mean, was fees and interest. It's just,
wow.
It's mind blowing. It'll blow you away how quickly that stuff adds up. So they stuck a lien on all of my houses, and I couldn't get any mortgages. I couldn't borrow any money. It was really, really bad. And so I heard somebody say, if you don't know your numbers, you don't have a real business. And I didn't know my numbers. I was living paycheck to paycheck, like in a certain checkbook accounting is what it was. I'd look at my checkbook and that's how much money I have. And that's what I spent. So I started digging into profit first. I hired a, what do you call her? I'm sorry. I don't know, a director of operations, a COO. She does everything for me. Like, she's my main executive assistant, but she also then managed my books. And so and I hired an accountant, and they helped me, like a fractional CFO. And they kind of helped me figure out my numbers, my books. I started, doing everything in QuickBooks. I started getting weekly reports, and started paying. Started getting caught up on my current taxes. That's number one thing. And there's a lot of people listening to this right now who are in tax hurt, right? And I would bet you, at least you two guys, I'm sure you've gotten that tax bill at the end of the year, and you're like, oh crap, what am I going to do?
More than once.
So I knew, number one, I needed to stop that, and I needed to start paying my current taxes. And so that's what I started doing. Every dollar that came in, I started putting aside 20% for current this year's taxes. And then I started taking another 10 to 20% to pay back taxes. And so it just started, it was very hurtful. Like, it was painful. Mm-hmm. I'm paying more in current taxes and previous taxes than maybe 3 or 4 people make on average in 1 year. I mean, like, it's ungodly the amount of money that I'm paying in taxes. And it's easy to get frustrated and bitter and angry at the government and get mad at the IRS, but it's my fault that I got into the situation I'm in. So I'm about a month away, seriously, from paying it all off. And it'll be such a relief when that happens, but it's humbling. And so I try not to be boastful and proud and arrogant, because I know the kind of stupidity that I can get myself into if I'm not humble about it, right? And it's funny thing is, the more I've shared this, the more people I've been finding that have been telling me, "Oh man, I'm in the same boat," right? Like, people contact me and say, "Hey, I'm in the same thing. I got this $200,000 tax bill. I know a guy who's got a $2 million tax lien on his house right now," right? Like, and a lot of people know who he is. A lot of people know who he is. And he was kind of famous in the real estate guru circles. How's that guy going to pay it off? And that just won't go away. And so it's a pretty serious thing.
It's real.
But God humbles the proud, right? And I think maybe I had some pride, and I thought that I could grow I could revenue my way out of that. You know what I mean? I could just make more money and pay it off. But like, anyway, is that?
Yeah,
dude.
So listen,
telling me on your show.
It's too late now. We're already like half hour into it. No, but listen, Joe, I mean, that's a really powerful story. And I really appreciate you sharing this with the audience, because I think when you're vulnerable, that's when we can actually learn a lot of different things, not only for ourselves, but for other people. My question for you, and this is something that you probably thought about. What lesson, like what wisdom do you pull out of that? And maybe you can share with the audience.
The big thing is know your numbers. And anybody who's starting to make any money in this business needs to get profit first and read that book, because most of us think of profit as revenue minus expenses equals profit, but we need to reverse that. It's revenue minus profit equals expenses. So every dollar that comes in, you have to pay Uncle Sam first. Well, actually, the book says profit first. Well, fine, whatever. But like, when you owe them $500,000 and they're threatening to send you to jail and steal everything from you, they get paid first. I don't care what my profit is. So, but number one, set aside every dollar that comes in, set aside money for the IRS and profit. Then you pay yourself. Make sure you get yourself a good salary. And then whatever's left goes to your overhead. And when you do that, it's so simple. Your business will always be profitable. Always. No matter if you're flipping one house a month or 20 houses a month, your business will always be profitable. No matter what kind of business you're in. So that is the number one thing. Like, you've got to know your numbers and really take a look at, you think you have $20,000 in the bank, and you think but you don't really. It's hard to remember, like, okay, well, 5 of that goes to the IRS, and 5 of that should go to my own salary, and a couple grand should go to future profits and stuff. And then you really only have $3 or $4 grand left for your overhead. And then looking at it that way helps you figure out what kind of business you really can have. Like, you may make $300,000 in a month, but don't think that your overhead needs to be flexible and not fixed, if that makes any sense. So when you have to make changes, you can. It's easy. It's not hard. And you can be agile and nimble and quick to change your overhead and your expenses if you have to, if you're not making the money that you need to. So when my tax bill is paid off, my gosh, I'm going to have, I'm going to have so much more money to start investing. I'll be, except for my house, be completely debt free. And I am really, really looking forward to that, because I'm going to have an extra. Yeah. I won't say, but I'm going to have a lot of extra money every single month that I can start investing in assets and cash flowing real estate and stuff like that. And I'm really looking forward to doing that.
Awesome. Sounds to me like Uncle Sam is not your favorite uncle.
No, no. But you could go in and complain all you want about the IRS. Yeah. It's not going to matter. Yeah. They don't care. Right. So it's. Jesus said, pay to Caesar what's Caesar and give to God what's God's, right? So, there's another really good book I should mention. It's called The Blessed Life by Robert Morris. Really, really good book. I recommend everybody read that. If you're a believer, a Christian, it's called The Blessed Life by Robert Morris. And, he talks about how, God blesses the people who are generous, and we don't give to get, we get to give. Right. And when we give, so during this whole time, the last 3 years or so, I would say, I'll just say this. In the last 3 or 4 years, we've been really faithful with our tithe and been faithful with giving above and beyond the tithe. And I would actually, it sounds so contrarian. It doesn't make sense, but I would suggest that a lot of my financial success in my business has come from being faithful to tithe, to church. And it's like a spiritual law, and it's kind of, I can't prove it, but except I know in my own story, like when we started being more faithful and consistent with our tithe and giving first, not like whatever's 10% of whatever is left over, 10% of whatever of the gross that you pull in. My business has been growing every year. It's been more and more profitable every year. And I've been paying off this tax lien, 3 times as fast as I should have. So I think that answers your question. A couple of things that I think I owe this, any success I have, it's knowing your numbers with books like Profit First. And make sure that you're not a hoarder, right? You're being generous and you're giving away the time, talents, and treasures that God's given you. It's not yours to keep, right? My business isn't mine, it's His. And so I tithe, I try to tithe. We do everything that comes in. And I think that has, and The Blessed Life does such a good job of explaining all of that. You read that book and man, I got so excited about giving. I got so excited about the opportunity I get to give, and it's like God will reward people who are generous 100 times over in this life and in the life to come. Right. And we're just here for a little flicker. We just have a little bit. It's like we're a vapor, just is here for a little bit and then is gone. And we have the opportunity to have a huge lasting impact and have eternal rewards in heaven. So yeah, that inspires me, and it forces me to think bigger and to be more generous. And yeah, it's pretty fun.
Man, it sounds amazing. And it also I have this imagery of like a full circle where you've stewarded your business in a way to be a blessing to other people. And you yourself have been blessed through your obedience and through your faithfulness. And of course we all have our bumps and bruises and the times when we kind of veer off the path, but like you're just on such a great trajectory, man. It's awesome. You've accomplished so much. I know, no doubt have impacted who knows how many lives and businesses at this point. And I really want to thank you for being on the show and your vulnerability with everything, man, because you really just opened up. And I hope everyone sees here how much value you bring to other people as just a result of your heart, man. How do people learn more about what you do? How do they find you? What can they do to learn more?
Well, I appreciate the kind words, Jason. And so to find me, I guess joemccall.com is my main website. joemccall.com. I do have this book that I talked about the strategy I used when I quit my job, and I wrote a book about it. And this is in that first retreat that we had in 2009 in Chicago. I was telling everybody, hey, I want to create a class called Wholesaling Lease Options. And what do you guys think of that? And I got really, really good feedback and a lot of challenges. Like, are you sure? Like, I remember people saying, we don't need another course, right? No, we don't need another internet marketing guru. There's enough of you out there. And people were telling me that somebody's going to copy this anyway. But I really felt like I needed to do this. So this is a book I wrote about that strategy, Wholesaling Lease Options. And it's free, but you pay shipping and handling. You can't get this on Amazon. Oh, you can, but it's $70 on Amazon. But it's a book on the strategy on how to flip lease options. And it's what I used to quit my job in 2009. And you can get it for free at WLObook.com, WLObook.com, pay shipping and handling. And there'll be some opportunities after you sign up for it if you want it, to buy some of my other stuff if you want. But this is a book I've sold a lot of these, and it's made a big difference in a lot of people's lives. And it's a great little simple strategy that people can do in real estate.
Got it, man. Well, check it out, everyone. Joe McCall, thanks for being on Life in Your Show, buddy. Talk soon.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Man, that was an awesome interview. I'll tell you, Joe is a guy. He's a great guy, man. I remember several years ago when I was looking to get into a supplement business. He gave me this manual of this thing that, like, he paid for it, like, cause he was going to get into something like that. He gave me this like 500-page book that he used for, he's like, hey man, just take it. He's like, you can use it for your business, like help me. Several months ago, I asked him a question. He's like, here, check out this video. He's like, check this out. He's like, he's just such a guy loves to help people. Like he's just always been really, really helpful for me, and just a great guy. And it's so cool to see how successful he's been in the business he's built. And certainly as he alluded to, it's had some significant ups and downs, but like, it's just something that he's really, accomplished a pretty substantial thing here. He's pretty well known in the industry. He does some great things, helps a lot of people, and it's cool to see him succeed with that. And he drops some serious nuggets, man.
Right. And listen, I've known Joe for a while, and I think he's one of those guys that's not just a talker, but a doer. And what you just shared about how he just give you the manual or shared something with you, he talked about giving, right? Yeah. It's not just about money. It's giving first for everything in your life, whatever it might be, mental, what your genius zone. If you are really good at something that you do, share this with others, right? And without any expectations of what you might get in return. And I think this is how he lives out his life. And, talk about the nuggets that he dropped in here. Yeah. There were some really awesome things in there.
Yeah, dude, you're totally right. He's totally a giver, totally a doer. Like, that's one thing with Joe is like, he gets an idea in his head and he runs with it, man. He's not sitting there procrastinating. Like, that's something I've known about him since, I've known him for 12 years now. He gets an idea and he runs with it, and he's going to see if it works. And, we didn't talk about his business failures. I'm sure he has plenty, just like everybody else, but my guess, and I don't want to speak for him, but he probably tried it, realized it didn't work, and then let it go. Right. He wasn't just going to sit there and analyze it to death. He was going to get out there and do it, make it happen. And now he's a track record of success. He's learned these incredible lessons. He talked about simplifying your business. He talked about focusing. He talked about keeping light overhead, asking some really powerful questions, and the lifestyle design component that he incorporated as well, that allowed him the flexibility and the freedom, which, by the way, also, I'm sure, no doubt, helped him through all this stuff with COVID, where, he had light overhead. And basically, he didn't have some of the same stresses that other businesses had.
Yeah. And, that whole thing about looking at your numbers and knowing your numbers. I mean, at one point he talked about how he had this 3 different verticals in your business, right? Yep. And he thought that the third one was the most profitable, until he finally looked at his numbers and he's like, whoa, I'm spending 80% of my time in this third vertical, but it's only accounting for about 20% of my profits. He dropped that, started focusing on the one that's giving him a lot more profits. All of a sudden, business is moving in a different direction. And that's actually much more profitable, right? So looking at that, I asked him at one point, I said, sounds to me like you're working a lot on your business as opposed to just in your business. I will challenge every single business owner that every so often we have these kinds of sessions when we sit down and actually look at the numbers, look at what's on my business stuff. And I do this with my students when we do these, full days with them, that we sit down and looking at the business, what's it doing? And then we can learn a lot from that session to be able to make the right decisions, what that looks like as far as our vision. And notice he talks about the vision first, right? How is my business support my life, not the other way around?
Yep.
And I think that's an important aspect as well too.
And I also really loved his openness regarding faith in his business as well. I thought that was fantastic. That was really inspiring and encouraging. A lot of people, I think, believe life, your faith and your spiritual walk have to be separate from your business, when in fact the opposite is true. Like, your business is a form of worship. It is a part of who you are. It's part of your stewardship and what you do through faith and through obedience. So that was awesome too. Yeah. Great episode. Fantastic. Really, we'll have to get Joe back on the show again too. It's just so much knowledge to share with us. Anyway, listen, hope you guys loved this episode. Hope you got a lot out of it. Hope you implement and do something with what you learn, right? All these episodes, I'd say the same thing. We probably don't reinforce this enough, Peter. Like, this is all great information that you're getting every single week, but what are you doing with it, right? Like, knowledge in and of itself, if it's head knowledge, has very limited use. It has to hit the road. It has to, make a difference. It has to be implemented and acted upon to have an effect in your business and in your life. So please, 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 the ultimate compliment you can give us is to take what you're learning here and we can see fruits in your business and share that stuff with us. We'd love to hear it. So if you enjoyed it, we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a review, leave us a rating, subscribe, tell all your friends and family about it. Also, if you want to be part of the Life in Air connection and get in with the ongoings of Life in Air, you've heard us mention this before, go on and download the Life in Air app. It's free. That's where all of our communications are occurring with other Life in Airs. If you want to be around and rub shoulders with, Joe talked about being around the right people, right? And so if you want to get around people that are putting vision first and pursuing their vision and making great things happen, then go on and join the Life in Air app. And that's just a great place to be. As always, I hope you enjoyed the episode. We will be back next week. So until next time, create that vision, start taking steps, and incredible things will happen. See you next time.